Now, we move from informational warfare in Africa to some similar cases here in the new Europe. We're going to discuss OSINT, the active and passive OSINT, with my expert here, which is Jakub Klepek, who is an expert in OSINT and in counter-extremism and extremism. Welcome, Jakub.
You could say so, but thank you for having me here.
Right, so let's start sharply with a question. How old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay, you have plenty of experience already. How come that younger people are so much better with OSINT than, let's say, me, who is almost 40?
Hey, you look pretty young. Like, I would say we're the same age. That's first of all.
Yeah.
Even with the glasses. Look, you actually did some OSINT. I mean, already going on Google, you did some OSINT. I think OSINT before and OSINT now, these are kind of two different fields because we have more tools, or we have different tools, right? Like, there's so many tools, especially with AI right now. So I would say that previous generations were not worse with OSINT or were not doing it right. I think they were doing it right, but with different tools and with different availabilities, with the different stuff that they had before.
Understood. And let's just assume if I'm a 5-year-old kid, or you want to explain that to my mom,
right? How
would you explain OSINT in a very simple, plain words?
Right. I think the simplest way. I mean, that's that's funny because that's probably the most asked questions on ChatGPT, right? Like, explain something to me, like for 2 to 5 years old, right? If you know what ChatGPT is, right?
I do know. I pay $20 a month for that.
Okay. So I think the easiest way to explain OSINT is basically look out for information available publicly. So you don't really do much, which is, let's say, going very deeply into the stuff that is covered, the stuff that is secret. You go and you explore the information that is available online, and you just analyze it.
Is it active OSINT or passive when you do it yourself with
right? So that's a great question because I don't get those questions often. Like, what is the difference? The difference between active and passive. So active, you actually engage with people. Like, let's say we're on Facebook, right?
Okay.
And I want you to, I want to scam you, right? And I'm sending you a link. Like, I'm directly engaging with you.
Okay.
I'm sending you something.
Okay.
You're clicking the link, and then the link has a IP grabber, for example. So then I have your IP, and you think that you're exploring some kind of different site.
Okay.
That is the active OSINT, when we engage. The passive OSINT is when we don't engage at all. You don't even know that I'm there. Let's say I'm watching your Discord chat, or I'm watching your Telegram channel. You don't know I'm there because I didn't join. You have no clue. But I'm having the view of everything. Discord
is what I hear quite a lot, with the Pentagon leaks and all of that, and the recent thing.
Rightly so.
So Discord and Telegram are two places where you would do your active or your passive OSINT, is that correct?
I would do my passive OSINT there. I mean, it's a... Also, I cannot reveal all my secrets, right? Because we also know that there's OSINT from the other side, right?
Right.
So people who are...
So there's another guy who just sits over there and he would do the counter thing.
Right, yeah, that's the next guy who comes after me, right? But no, I think I mostly engage in passive OSINT when it comes to Telegram. But when it comes to Discord, I think it's a mix of both. Because also, there's this thing called vetting. If you want to get into the server, sometimes they have like the gates that you have to pass by. Like, you go in, there's like a lobby, then they ask you to answer some questions if you seem legit, because that's also another question, right? Like, how do you build your history, like who you are, right? Like, you gotta have your fake profile, fake
you're a spy.
Picture and everything. It's look, if I was a spy and I told you, I would be a bad spy.
For me, to not be OSINTed by someone else, to not be analyzed that much, I do have to have all these things called like virtual machine and everything, just have my extra MacBook here. Like, how do I defend myself? How do you defend yourself? Do you have a phone?
I don't have a phone on me right now, because maybe I'm being tracked by... No, I'm kidding, of course. Okay. Like, I use my phone, right? I'm not sure what the next topics are going to be, but you mentioned Israel. I remember the kosher phone, right? Like, you just have the old school phones that don't have the GPS and just you can text and call, right? Like those Nokias that you played Snake.
3310,
in the good old days, right?
The brick, we call it.
The brick. Yeah, that's a good name for it. But yeah, so I do have a phone, and if someone wants to get your information from the government side, I'm sure they will be able to do so sooner or later. But there are some tools that you can use to protect yourself, like as you mentioned, the virtual machine. You can also use the VPN.
Okay.
There's a Tor browser, which
that I
is
know.
not only used for
porn.
Yeah, probably. But it's not only used for like malicious content, right? Like it's a normal web browser that is a little bit more complicated when it comes to IPs and everything. It's a more complicated process. I know that we're short on time, so that's
Understood. What do you know about dark web? Like in few words.
I've watched some YouTube videos
about dark web. Okay, understood. Okay, if I'm 10 years old guy who lives in a neighborhood and my bike was annexed by my neighbor who is like 12 years old, I would say, what kind of OSINT techniques should I use so I would dominate the situation?
You should probably try to find out who's from your friends, like who in your friends group is that kind of guy or girl that is going to take your bike. I think that's the first thing you should do.
How would you do that?
You're already doing some OSINT out there, right? Like you're trying to pick the right audience, like you're trying to pick the right group of people that would be capable of doing so. So that's already the first step, right? So then I would probably go and see whether there were some, well, that's another thing, like a preventive, you could do a preventing thing, which is, for example, giving the AirTag on your bike, so then you can track it on your phone.
Yeah, I have one.
You see? Right, so that's you're an OSINT expert, though. Like, I should ask you questions then, right? But another thing, what I would do, probably check if there's like a monitoring somewhere there, because I don't think the police would really care that much about this bike, to be honest. So doing some monitoring work, or try to see whether there's like cameras out there, and yeah.
And have access
maybe
to these cameras.
Ask on Facebook, I don't know.
What are the most extreme organizations that right now are active in the region and you would want to say, okay, be aware of these?
Right, so...
Like Wagner Group or something else?
Yes. It's a sensitive and developing topic because we've got different kinds of groups that are working actively in here, in Poland, and also like in different places. Wagner Group is definitely one of them. I would say groups supported by Russia. And what I mean is that their funds, like the money, is flowing from Russia to those groups. I think this is something to be concerned about.
All right.
I mean, a very interesting stuff that I did recently when it comes to OSINT. I'm sure people are aware about the Quran burning in Sweden or in Denmark, or it wasn't only burning.
Is it Russia?
Look, so there are some hackers, right? I think they have something to do. Their name is somehow connected to Sudan.
Okay.
And so they were saying that they're super, protective when it comes to Islam and values of Islam. Well, it turns out to be that one research shows that the links are actually to Russia. And so, what a surprise.
Yeah,
right?
so they do as usually, divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer.
Let's play a game. Actually, I have two games.
Sure.
I want you to rate from 1 to 10, where 10 is the biggest, 1 is the least amount of utter chaos and extremism that you could say about the country. So I'm going to say Hungary, you would say extremism 10. And I would say Turkey, extremism, whatever.
Right.
So let's do
10 is the highest.
10 is the highest, 1 is the least. Let's do the first.
do it.
Hungary.
Hungary, I would give 7 because I like Cristiano Ronaldo, and I think 7 is a reliable number.
Wonderful.
I think that works.
Turkey, extremism in Turkey.
I love Turkey. I've been there.
Good.
I've worked there.
Okay.
It's a beautiful country with amazing people and amazing food.
But the extremism is?
I'm not an expert when it comes to Turkey, but I would say something around 5-ish.
5-ish, okay. So Erdogan does his job well. What about Putin and Russia?
Oh, I would say 10.
10.
10.
10.
And put 2 more zeros out there.
Okay, and what about Finland?
Oh, Finland, also around 5.
5,
Yes.
all right. And what about Poland? How extreme?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, let's be honest. Your career will not be over after this.
I think Poland would be somewhere around Hungary.
Okay.
I would say 7, 8.
The last one here on the list is Israel.
There's a solid 7, 8 now as well.
Wonderful.
I would say.
Just a quick question on Israel.
Yes.
Before the Netanyahu's overruled thing with the Supreme Court happening, Do you think that Israel was a democratic country?
I do believe so.
From 1 to 10, how democratic was Israel before that, in your opinion?
I think that right now we're in that state where there's a democracy crisis in many different countries.
Right.
I also would say that Israel still is a democratic country because of the right of that the people are going on the streets and protesting. I would say before it was like on a democratic scale, 8, 9. I think the only democratic state in the Middle East probably when it comes to this quality of democracy. So I think it's a high number.
So the last game here is this. There are organizations which provide or do not really provide, like let's call it over-national support of the world, like UN and others, OSCE that you're quite familiar with, and plenty of others. Could you do the rating of those organizations and of their usefulness or uselessness, where 1 is useless, 10 is useful in the current world conditions?
Right.
Yeah?
That's probably the hardest question I've had recently.
UN.
1.
1. Perfect. It's super useless. OSCE.
Haven't heard much about them when it comes to current security related issues, whatever issues. I would say also around like 2, 3.
2, 3. Red Cross.
I'm not familiar with their work.
Name your organizations.
NATO.
NATO.
I would say they're pretty active.
3.
Let's give it a 7 because of Cristiano Ronaldo.
I agree. Okay. All right, Jakub. Thank you so much for your time.